The Canal Society of New York State, founded in Buffalo in 1956, is an organization for canal advocates, preserving over 200 years of canal history in New York State. The purpose of the Society is to act as an agency through which interest in the canal may be promoted and the preservation of records, relics, structures, sites, and traces may be encouraged. The Canal Society achieves these objectives in a number of ways. By establishing and maintaining an extensive collection of canal-related documents, manuscripts, maps, and publications, as well as artifacts and other items associated with New York's canal history. These are made available to the public. By hosting and co-hosting conferences, symposia, and field trips exploring canal-related structures in the field. And by restoration of canal-related structures and interpretation and events at Port Byron, New York. For over 60 years, members of the Canal Society have been collecting and archiving materials and artifacts that help to tell the story of the canals of New York and other states, and even other countries. In addition to these materials, members have documented every canal and canal site they found with photographs, allowing us to go back in time to see how these sites have changed, aged, or disappeared over the years. These collections are available to researchers who wish to find original source material. Much of the Canal Society's collection currently resides in climate-controlled storage space at the Erie Canal Museum in Syracuse, New York. The Canal Society collections include objects from the earliest days of the canal system in New York State, including early photographs and manuscripts, objects from canal boats, and artwork from different periods of the canal in New York State. The Canal Society maintains photographic records which show changes to the canal system over the years, such as this negative of Seneca Falls from the turn of the 20th century by noted regional photographer Grace Woodworth. The Canal Society also maintains photographic documentation of what life was like on the canals, such as this black and white collection from the 1950s, and photographs of the fleet that maintain the canal system, showing how the fleet changes over the years. Over the past several years, the Canal Society has been in the process of digitizing photographs and historical documents. These have been shared with online repositories such as the New York Heritage Digital Collections for researchers to easily access. The Canal Society also maintains the eriecanal.org website, which was developed by Society member Frank Sadowski, including information and documents provided by the Society. This allows members of the public who may have an interest in the canal to learn about it conveniently from anywhere. A recent addition to the Canal Society website is the Erie Canal Map Explorer, showcasing the work of Society member Stephen Talbot in mapping the Erie Canal from historic sources available at the New York State Archives, including the Blue Line and Schillner map collections. This explorer allows interested members of the public to pan and zoom on historic documents to explore where the canal path would have been. The Canal Society was instrumental in rescuing the Day Peckinpah from destruction when it was destined for a scrapyard in 2005. The Day Peckinpah was the first barge specifically designed and built for the New York State Barge Canal in 1921, and is now the largest artifact in the New York State Museum's collection. The Canal Society's members-only scholarly publication, Bottoming Out, is published twice a year. Additionally, the Society publishes guidebooks with scholarly articles related to the itinerary for each annual field trip. Every March, the Canal Society hosts a winter symposium featuring a diverse array of speakers. Additionally, the Canal Society co-hosts larger events such as the New York State Canal Conference, held every 2 years, and works to bring the World Canals Conference to canal-related locations across New York State. Canal Society field trips explore a wide variety of canal and canal-related structures both in New York State and beyond. In recent years, attendees have been able to explore watered sections of historic canal structures and tour inside a working hydroelectric plant on the Oswego Canal. Additionally, the Society strives to include social history aspects in field trips. In 2017, the spring field trip to Rome and Utica commemorated the 200th anniversary of the beginning of construction on the Erie Canal. The trip also introduced the 100-plus attendees to the Utica State Hospital. Only a quarter-mile from the canal, building materials for the former asylum were brought in by canal boat, and it would have been clearly visible to canal boats passing in both directions. In 2023, the Society Spring Field Trip participants were welcomed in a visit to the Cayuga Nation, acknowledging that the canal passed through their ancestral lands. The Society offers activities associated with the trips and conferences for people with a wide range of interests, such as kayaking and musical performances. The Canal Society's 2022 spring tour along the Oswego Barge Canal included a stop at the Canal Corporation's dry docks in Lysander, New York, where attendees were able to view the historic canal tug Urger up close and in person. The Old Erie Canal Heritage Park at Port Byron, opened in 2016, offers direct access and parking from both the New York State Thruway eastbound lanes and from New York Route 31 through the village of Port Byron. The Heritage Park sits on 18 acres that encompass a visitor center staffed largely by volunteers, an enlarged Erie Canal lock, and multiple authentic 19th century buildings that stood along the canal here. The park is fully ADA compliant and dog-friendly. Paved paths take the visitor through enlarged Erie Canal Lock 52 at Port Byron. Walking through the lock gives the visitor a clear sense of what it might have been like for travelers on the Erie Canal in the 19th century, when travel through would have been by boat rather than on foot. The story of the Erie Canal is also a story of migration. Part of the interpretation at the Heritage Park includes the experiences of some of the African American community in the area, such as the story of Ben White, who owned the adjoining dry dock property after the canal closed. Ben White was mayor of Port Byron, likely the first African American voted as a mayor in New York State. His brother-in-law appears in this picture, third from left, in front of the Kern store, which was located on the south edge of Lock 52. The Erie Canal story is also one of immigration. The Erie House, pictured here, is an 1894 canal-side saloon and boarding house, which is now restored and open to visitors at the Heritage Park. It was built by Italian immigrant brothers Pietro and Salvatore Vendetto from the region of Campania. At the visitor center, a life-size image of Pietro Vendetto welcomes visitors in Italian. Adjacent to the Erie House, visitors are also able to visit the 1895 Mule Barn and 1895 Blacksmith Shop, both restored and fully accessible. Displays at the Erie House include a number of original artifacts from the Canal Society's collection. The Canal Society is pleased to work on the Heritage Park in partnership with the New York State Thruway, the New York State Canal Corporation, and the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. Visitors to the Old Erie Canal Heritage Park come from across the country and around the world. Interpretation by the Canal Society at the Visitor Center also includes operational models of Erie Canal locks, so that people can understand how a lock works before they walk through one. The Heritage Park is happy to welcome visitors from near and far to stop for a picnic, and the Canal Society works closely with other organizations, such as Parks and Trails New York, to welcome visitors from events such as the Cycle the Erie Canal annual bike ride. The Heritage Park has enormous potential for school field trips and offers dedicated bus parking in both visitor lots. It's a far cry from when the Canal Society started organizing visits to the site in the mid-20th century. In June 2022, the Canal Society closed on its newest acquisition and began on another adventure, the Samuel Center for Canal History in Port Byron, New York. A former Roman Catholic church, the Samuel Center offers the Society an opportunity to consolidate most of its archives and much of its collections in one wheelchair-accessible location for easy access by interested researchers. In its first year of operation, the Samuel Center for Canal History has already contributed additional cultural offerings in the rural village of Port Byron in cooperation with local community groups, including theater and musical performances related to the history of the area. Local high school art students and Port Byron's fourth graders were welcomed at the center in May for a presentation by renowned marine archaeologist Art Cohen and internationally respected maritime history artist Len Tantillo about how art and archaeology combine to create historically accurate images of the past. Thank you for your time. We hope to hear from you soon.